Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Bhala Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhala Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhala Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhala Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vrajacanaranjana Yasodanandana Vrajacanaranjana Yamuna Tira Bhanachadi Yamuna Tira Bhanachadi Tira Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Vihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivijagacharya Astatar Satsasi Simad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. So here's our topic for this weekend. Maybe better would be awaken, but for many of us it's actually discover. There is such a thing, an eternal relationship with Krishna. One Vaishnava Acharya has described that we are so covered, it's as if it's lost or gone. But it's not gone. It's eternally existing, but as if so remote, so distant, so covered that it's gone or doesn't exist, but it does exist. Therefore, discover is a good word. And yesterday we had a little technology problem, and hopefully we've solved the technology problem. And not really. Could you make this slide go forward? It's not, oh, there we go. So yesterday's topic was in the beginning. And there you can see this nice image, paint a photo of Srila Prabhupada in Tompkins Square Park, 1966 summer. And if technology cooperates with us, we'll see this video. You have to click on it.
it will clean and the atmosphere, which is very, very convenient in human. Has to be our not that because we are
Sorry. in the language of Krishna to Uddhava, when faith is awakened, Jata Shraddha, this is review, it's a chronology. There is preliminary faith, there's awakened faith in hearing topics about me, Krishna says, or hearing his name, or spiritual sound vibration. If you remember, Aparusheya Shabda, sound that's not superhuman, it's from another realm, from the spiritual realm, exactly like Prabhupada said here, Golokera Premadana, Harinama Sankirtana, from the spiritual realm. And as that faith is awakened, Jata Shraddha, bhakti arises further to the point where one manifests indifference to fruitive activity. Finding happiness through fruitive activity is a natural byproduct of the awakening of bhakti. The phrase, this is a reminder, Nirvina Sarva Karmasu, all activities, Nirvina. It's not Nashta, it's Nirvina. It's indifference. Indifference. Indifference doesn't mean I don't care. Indifference means I don't place all importance in the outcome and being the enjoyer or sufferer of the outcome of my activities. Rather, there's another purpose. The other purpose, transcendental purpose, is pleasing Krishna. That's the faith that awakens from sadhu sangha, manifest in the form of nirvina sarva karmasu, indifference to karma, enjoying the fruits of activities in this temporary world. A stronger attraction has awakened that's nourished by this jata shraddha. And then when that takes place, then what becomes possible is exclusive concentration on the Lord. It's sequential. It's in one sense, it's cause and effect, but it's not exactly cause and effect, because from the material analysis, when the effect arises, the cause is gone. Like, for example, when there's a seed and the seed fructifies and it becomes a little sprout, the seed is no longer. The cause is gone and the effect replaces the cause. This is transcendental, that is, faith is being nourished. One of the ways that Vishwanath Chakravarti describes this awakening from Adau Shraddha to Prema, it's simply stages of faith. So concentration, exclusive concentration on the Lord when chanting or worshiping or cooking or thising or thating, and doing any one of the activities that we do in our lives, our activities, the outcome becomes less important. The relationship with Krishna becomes all important. And the medium of that relationship, like our discussion yesterday, we're exercising free will in favor of pleasing Krishna, and thus a detachment, an indifference to karma, being the enjoyer of worldly activities. We still do activities, but the interest changes. And through that medium, the relationship with Krishna becomes awakened. Now, one other point on this topic of indifference to fruitive activity, we heard Krishna explain and Rupa Goswami explained, neither too much attachment nor too much detachment. Meaning, too much attachment is too much affinity for material affairs. Too much detachment means leaning towards impersonalism, karma sannyas, or stop existing. If you're Buddhist, it's just stop existing. Not become a realized soul, but just void, nirvana, in their sense of absolute vairagya. So what's appropriate vairagya? What's this neither too much attached, too much detached? What does it look like? Rupa Goswami, I didn't discuss this yesterday, but here it is. Rupa Goswami gives us a very simple definition. Those of you that have been around for a while, you know the verse, the anasaktasya vishayan verse. Here's Prabhupada's translation. The vairagya, this is appropriate detachment, neither too much, neither too little. The vairagya of that person who employs objects suitable for devotional development while remaining detached from them, that's the anasaktasya vishayan. While remaining detached from them means the vishaya, that I want to be the enjoyer of. So you engage with objects that have a purpose, a devotional development purpose. You engage with objects, remaining detached from them, that person is said to be suitable for bhakti. The objects should be persistently related to Krishna. This is Prabhupada's definition, or translation of Rupa Goswami's verse, the anasaktasya. And I want to read, Jiva Goswami makes very nice, very clear explanation of what's appropriate detachment. Yeah. His commentary on this verse. With this verse, the author, that's Rupa Goswami, shows the type of vairagya which is suitable for entering bhakti. The vairagya of the person employed upayunjataha, employing material objects only to the extent that they are favorable for his devotional development, while being detached from material enjoyment, is suitable for bhakti. In this, there should be persistence, nirbandha, in relating the objects to Krishna. Now, there's the stage of unsteady bhakti where it's vacillating between attentive and inattentive, or it's for Krishna, it's for me. So that's our review from yesterday. And now we're going to go to something a little more subtle, a phrase that we often hear in the Hare Krishna movement, chanting from the heart. Like, what does that mean? And how do you do it? How do you get there? At times, we act from the platform of the mind. Nice illustration. On the right side, that's a man that's walking a tightrope, acting from the platform of the mind. And at other times, we act from the platform of the heart. Now, our topic is developing or rediscovering or awakening our relationship with Krishna. And it's encouraged in our relationship with Krishna, we choose to act and serve from the heart. Doesn't mean we shut the mind, but we choose to act from the heart. It's a nice illustration. There's somebody offering patram pushpam palam toyam, and they're ringing a bell and they're making a deity offering, and there you see Krishna's face in the sky. And acting from the heart is not an event, it's an ongoing journey, just like the bhakti process is an ongoing journey. And it can be intermittent. Commonly it is intermittent, but it's meant to be a journey to help us reach Krishna. And the journey is the bhakti process itself. Continuous devotional service to Krishna. So what's continual devotional service to Krishna? Well, Rupa Goswami defines it. And the verse is the same verse that we already mentioned, this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Anyabhilasha Shunyam verse. What's going on? There we go. Anyabhilasha Shunyam Jnana Karma Jnanabratam Anukulyena Krishna Nushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Translation. The highest bhakti is defined as continuous service or emotions directed towards Krishna. His expansion forms are others related to him with a pleasing attitude towards Krishna. It should be devoid of desires other than the desire to please the Lord, and unobstructed by impersonal gyan, the materialistic rituals of karma, or other unfavorable acts. Nice definition. Definition. Bhakti defined. So that's the journey of devotional service that, as we heard yesterday, is awakened by hearing topics of Krishna and hearing the holy name of Krishna. Like this little short statement Prabhupada made. That's all there was in the beginning, was just the chanting of the holy name. So when the bhakti process awakens, it means awakening the desire that Krishna alone should be pleased. Krishna alone should be pleased is not a negation of other people, but Krishna alone should be pleased. That's the criterion. In the course of developing the Hare Krishna movement, there were different ideas being proposed to Srila Prabhupada about how to conduct Nam Sankirtan. And he said the same thing in reply as he said here. How people, whether people understand or don't understand, whether they think of it in a favorable way or don't think of it in a favorable way, our assignment, our business, our life is to receive and to give. And when we give, we should know Krishna is pleased. And that's our objective. So we want to do things that aesthetically are pleasing, like for example, adding musical instruments. That's nice. But the purpose of adding musical instruments is not fame and popularity. The interest is attracting people to the holy name. So to serve from the heart, we need to align our consciousness with the heart of bhakti. You've heard the alignment phrase used in relation to japa. So here's the alignment. What's the heart of bhakti? Align our consciousness with the heart of bhakti. So, no surprise, Rupa Goswami has given us a very clear explanation of what the heart of bhakti is. There you see on the right side, a series of 3 circles, the 3 hearts, one heart within a heart within a heart. So on the outer, on the perimeter there's the processes of bhakti themselves. That's the anushilanam. That's what the body does. And then Krishna is the object. The activities are directed towards an object. But it's not just the object of service, the activities of service and the object of service. There's the attitude or the intention, sankalpa, the intention that Krishna should be pleased. So that's the heart of the heart of the heart. The heart of bhakti, which we are to align our service to, is Krishna is to be pleased. Again, there's the processes, there's the object of the processes, and there's the intention. That's at the heart of bhakti. And if the heart of bhakti is aligned with our bhakti life, then we're in good shape. And if you're out of alignment, it can be uncomfortable or painful. Go to the chiropractor. Once we reawaken, okay. Once we reawaken our, okay. There's some delay in this. Anyway, once we reawaken our inherent intention to please Krishna, we can carry out our actions from the platform of the heart. That's as discussed yesterday. The effect of chanting carries over, spills over, expands into concentric circles, moves out into all the arenas of our service. So the intention to please Krishna starts, awakening of the intention to please Krishna starts from sound, and the sound of Krishna's messages, particularly also the sound of Krishna's name. Tomorrow we'll be having an opportunity on Ekadasi day to chant 64 rounds. Try to focus on the intention to please Krishna, or the intention to restore your relationship with Krishna through being attentive to Krishna. That will help awaken that relationship with Krishna. That's very covered. It's difficult because it's very covered. And the covering is the affinity for fruitive activity, and using Prabhupada's language, the infection of the modes of nature. We're in a diseased condition, infected condition. So it takes time, but there's a power, a Shakti of Bhakti, which we heard yesterday, that can overcome all of that. The primary action necessary to become closer to Krishna is our relationship with the holy name. Become closer to Krishna by becoming closer to the chanting of his holy name. Now, naturally, there's obstacles. Over on the left side, we see some of those obstacles, Tamagun and Rajagun, the modes of nature, affecting and impacting our lives. Because of this age of Kali, we have the cure. Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasyeva, 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 Gatir Anyata. For spiritual progress in this age of Kali, 3 times. There is no alternative, there is no alternative, there is no alternative to the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. Na asti eva, 3 times. Na, not. Asti, other. Eva, certainly. But that's an instruction or a direction. And then with faith, then intelligence is awarded. The intelligence comes from scripture. The intelligence needs to go inside. The Super Soul is ready. And when we're ready, Super Soul will help guide us so that the chanting of Krishna's names feels uplifting, enlightening, and natural. And you see in the illustration, this is a teenager that did this, by the way, pretty good. There's the Hare Krishna mantra going out from their mouth, and they're in a nicely balanced posture here. What happened? There we go. There we go. Uplifting, enlightening, and natural. Okay. However, it can also feel mechanical, dry, and dutiful sometimes. Maybe some part of your 64 rounds tomorrow will be uplifting and enlightening and lovely. And maybe some part of your 64 rounds tomorrow will be like this, mechanical, dry, and just counting the numbers. The counting game, Bhaktivinoda Thakur called it. So numerical chanting has its place, but it can become, if one is not careful, it can become dry and mechanical. So we want to chant from the heart. So what do we do when that happens? In our loving relationship with Krishna, we strive to carry out our actions from a place of love, not merely on the basis of duty. Here is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teaching on this topic. He says there are 4 types of people that engage in Krishna's service. The topmost is in serving Krishna out of love. Go down is mode of goodness, where one engages in service because it's good. It's good for me. It's what I should do. These are principles of goodness. Out of passion, because I'll do the service because I'll get something. I heard that if I make a donation in the hundi box, I'll get back 100 times. It's a good investment. And others out of fear. If I don't, I'll get spanked. I'll get some, bad situation in life. So I better do because I don't want bad situations in my life. So back to the duty, devotional service that is dutiful is good, but it's not on the platform of prema. And the encouragement here from the heart is not just because it's good. It may feel good. In the mode of goodness, one who does things in the mode of goodness, there's a happiness by being situated in the mode of goodness. It follows a rule of the modes of nature. And then there's transcendental. And from the heart is transcendental. So it's a striving to come to that position. So is it possible? There's obstacles, and their conditioning are those obstacles. No? There we see on the right side, there's the 5 senses. Interesting graphic. This is possible when we move from the head to the heart. When our mind, senses, and emotions are directed towards the single purpose. There's this is the head or the brain, and that's the heart. I guess that's us hanging down here. Move to the heart and consciously strive to not just from duty, but our relationship, our eternal, forgotten, loving relationship with Krishna. Move in that direction. So this remote device doesn't always work. There we go. That purpose is reuniting ourselves in the forgotten relationship we have with Krishna through the medium of the holy name. This is a purposeful cultivation of moving from the head to the heart. Now there's this nice teaching about chanting. We're not able to call out the holy name with complete attention and surrender because we have false shelters. You know, this attachment to being an enjoyer of sense objects. And sense objects become more abundant and we have nicely done fruitive activities, theistic or otherwise. And that the shelter is in the expectation of happiness from those things. Well, oh gosh. There we go. This is a tricky little device. In order to accept our true original shelter, we need to let go of the false impermanent ones. This is the anartha-nivritti. It's part of the anartha-nivritti process. It can be described as removing unwanted things. It can be described in terms of this message here, letting go of false impermanent shelters. Because once we have a habit, it's hard to change habits. And there's some habits that go more easily, and there's some habits that are more persistent, especially the subtle ones. Once we let go of false shelters and our minds, senses, and emotions are directed by a single purpose, the intention to please Krishna, that heart of bhakti life, we can call out to the holy name from the core of our heart. I predict that tomorrow, when you're chanting 64 rounds, sometimes it'll be more like this, and sometimes it'll be more like the dry, mechanical. Bhattahari Prabhu calls it hills and valleys. Just a little sharing. One time we had a Japa retreat in Gitanagari. He and I were staying in the same building. And after the 64 round day, the next morning, we're driving to the temple. And I just asked him how to go. And anybody that knows Bhattahari, to hear what he said is like, what? He said, dry as a desert. Bhattahari is Mr. Glubchaman. He's so juicy, and as soon as he starts chanting, anyone that's been in one of his kirtans, watch next time you're in one of his kirtans. He lights up. The whole room becomes radiant. His face, his demeanor, his personality. He is a conductor of ecstasy in relation to the holy name. It's just who he is. He loves. I'm sure Krishna loves him. So dry as a desert. It was, I didn't say anything. I was shocked. And then he went on to say, sometimes it's like that. And then he said, towards the end, it was very sweet. but most of the time. So you're in good company if some part of tomorrow is like that. Just think of blissful Badahari Prabhu and think you're in good company. But you're in good company with the holy name. Because the holy name is Krishna himself. And when that happens, remain patient. It may be a testing period, maybe a whatever it is period that Krishna's interacting with you to see how faithful you are to him. I remember hearing Prabhupada speak like this in New York, where Prabhupada said, sometimes Krishna will test you. Krishna will say, do you really want me? What about a little sense gratification? And then Prabhupada said, he turned his head away and said, no, I only want Krishna. Pause. Oh, maybe he does want me. What about a little misery, And the devotee says, whatever you wish to do with me, I am yours. I'm eternally. You can embrace me. You can trample me. You can neglect me. Whatever it is you wish to do with me, you are my only shelter. Then Krishna will say, they want me. Then Krishna will give himself to you. But it's not like Krishna, he's teasing us. Like a loving parent doesn't tease or torment their child, but they certainly want to see what is the nature of that relationship, the regard that the child has. And for us, it may be in relation to Krishna, maybe stronger, maybe weaker, maybe a hill, maybe a valley, maybe an ocean of Ananda, Anandam Bodhivardhanam. It may be a desert. But the relationship doesn't, the essence that the relationship is there and meant to be awakened is where our attention in mature stage, where our attention should go and will go. And then we can call out whatever the circumstances to the holy name. When we offer our soul, our very self at the lotus feet of the holy name, in a mood of complete shelter, inattentive and mechanical chanting will cease. A few years ago here in central New Jersey, there was a pretty large attendance for the 64 round day. And it was really nice. It was, different for everybody, for different people, had different experience. And after the 64 round day, we had a little sharing session, and then there was the RT and then the evening class. So I was in that little office area preparing for the evening class. And one man came, banged on the door. He didn't want to share this in the public, but he wanted to share with me his experience. It was really nice. That's why I'm going to share it with you. He said, I've been around ISKCON for a number of years, and I've never been able to chant more than 3 or 4 rounds, although I've always hear about the 16, and I've never been able to do it. And I thought something that might help me is if I were to attend one of these Japa retreats, but they're always too far away, so I never went. Because I live in New Jersey and I heard about this one, I came. And I really didn't have any expectation. And when I sat down to chant with all the devotees, right after Mangalarti, I felt something I've never felt before in my life. He said, I felt just like light lighter than a cotton swab and floating in the sky. I skipped breakfast. I just kept chanting and chanting. And it was so delightful. And by the time lunch came, I was hungry. So I stopped chanting. And that feeling left me. And when it came back, it was the usual. It was a struggle. It was very hard. And I was trying and trying and trying and couldn't get that feeling back. But I continued. And as soon as that mind change of my trying to enter into that mood changed, it happened again. I started feeling light and floating in the sky, and it was just euphoric right to the very end. You know, he didn't use these words, but he's, I'm a believer. So Krishna may not reciprocate with you like that tomorrow. He may. But whatever it is, it's a relationship with Krishna. And when the intention is sankalpa, the purpose is to please Krishna, to be in your relationship with Krishna for the purpose of pleasing him, then the more quickly than otherwise, the inattentive and mechanical chanting will cease. This is on the topic of chanting from the heart. Acting from the heart means acting from a place of who we are. We are eternal servants of the all-knowing, all-loving, and all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, that's sweet sounding. Sometimes it's not like that in our experience. So we pray with a prayerful attitude. Try to call upon Krishna from the core of your heart. What happened? Help. There we go. My dear Krishna, I am your eternal servant. Allow me to serve you by chanting your holy name. Or the very short version that you can think of tomorrow on Ekadasi, calling out to Krishna, please accept me. Now that's the conclusion for this morning's chanting from the heart session. What's going on? Okay. Technology isn't the best, but here we are. So let's see if there's some discussion. Here we are, it's 10 minutes before the hour. Do we have a portable microphone? Okay, there it is, and it works. Up front here, your sister.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, when we said not too attached and not too detached, and Rupa Goswami's verse, Nasakta Se Vishayan, how do we, when we're in school or we're at work, and how do we say this is for Krishna? How do we understand that, and how do we maintain that consciousness?
Well, you just threw 3 balls and I can't catch all 3 of them. But do the 3 again. What does it look like? What was the first one?
Yeah, when we say this is for the pleasure of Krishna, how do we understand that this is for Krishna and this is not for my comfort or enjoyment or?
How to is going to be a different experience for each. The principle is, who am I? And the degree to which you can understand that you are meant, your very core of your existence is meant for Krishna's pleasure. There's the how to. And we'll say it negatively. If you don't have that understanding of who you are, you won't think that way. Say it positively. The more you think of yourself as meant for Krishna's pleasure, that it doesn't matter one's age or stage of life or the activity or where you are or what's going on around you, your life is meant for pleasing Krishna. Your life is meant for pleasing Krishna. And as I was speaking, I was thinking of an experience I had one time when coming back from India, United Airlines going to Chicago. And we were over the Atlantic Ocean, hadn't reached, the United States yet. And there was a big kaboom, and the whole plane shook over the ocean. And the plane dropped, not completely, but the altitude a whole bunch. And everyone's looking around, what was that? What was that? What was that? The pilot spoke and said, you're all wondering what happened. One of the engines just exploded. So don't worry. We can maintain our altitude, but we can't make it to our destination. We're going to land at a military base from World War II along the shore, the northern shore of Canada. So everyone's like, and sure enough, as we came down and down and down and down, instead of seeing the lights of a city, we were seeing fir trees, the shore of the land and the ocean. And we went to a place it was a safe place. And apparently from time to time, things like this happen. And so they're all set up. We got off the plane. It took a million years. They unloaded our luggage. And then there were buses waiting to take us to a hotel where we were to spend the night, because it was night. So my thought was several. Not like, why is this happening to me? But, Krishna's arrangement, and just accept it. It's like yesterday, there was a question, at what point do you not just tolerate, but you do something when there's some disturbance? So my understanding was, here I have an opportunity to display bhakti life to all these other people that aren't devotees. So without going into the details, including everything, there was a hotel, and then they gave us a ticket to go for a meal, and what am I going to do? And I could just skip it, but I thought, anyways, without all the details, and people, were looking like, who's this guy? What's he going to do? So then people would say, a few people anyways, you remain so calm and so peaceful. And I wasn't like trying to be, I'm going to be calm and peaceful. I was trying to be pleasing to Krishna and say things and do things that would represent ISKCON, represent Prabhupada, represent the bhakti life. So, just turning the situation around from something that was very distressful, it happened on the way, and this is storytelling, It happened on the way over here from Chicago to New York to LaGuardia. There was a storm the other day. You remember, a big torrential storm. So what happened was the plane that was coming from Chicago circled around in the air for about an hour, waiting for the storm to clear. It didn't clear, ran out of fuel. So we had a landing in Philadelphia to refuel. The pilot said, don't get off the plane because it'll take forever if you start coming off the plane, because we can't leave until everybody gets back on the plane. He hung up the loudspeaker system. The man from the gate came out and said, everyone can get off now, but you have to come back in time. So because he said that, the pilot said, wait a minute, I'm going, don't leave. And he's talked to the whatever you call that guy that's at the gate, and they had some discussion. It was too late. He already said they can leave, and people were like antsy to leave. It took about 2 hours because to get off, then they had to have everybody come back on. Everybody wasn't on. They made announcements in the terminal. And they had to read out 175 names to see if everyone's here, because they couldn't leave until everyone. So it was like torture. And when it came to mentioning my name, because there was the gatekeeper guy and then a lady who was kind of like disturbed as we were, you say, okay, when she came to my name, she just smiled. I mean, she didn't say, I appreciate how you're remaining calm through all this, but that was the message. So even we're in difficult, distressful, disturbing, we have an opportunity to serve Krishna, whatever it is. When you're in school, when you're in the workplace, when you're in the marketplace, when you're in the community of people that are devotees or not devotees. Rather than there's so many anecdotal things to say, but if you're carrying that consciousness, you don't have to be wearing a dhoti or a sari. You just have to be in that consciousness, and people will recognize, here's somebody that's a little different. And their appreciation will go, and they may start asking some questions, and then you have an opportunity to say, depending on you and the circumstance. But you can always be in that consciousness. And where does that consciousness arise from? Chanting and hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam. And then done in a qualitative way as we've described. So that's how to just follow the bhakti process faithfully in the association of sadhus. Whatever your age, whatever your position, whatever your anything. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for wonderful class and very nice illustration also. Maharaj, our temple, we have that Zoom call, Japa call every morning, 5 to 6, and then Bhagavatam class. So during pandemic, we started that. So on Zoom call, I used to unmute my mic and I was chanting earlier. But one of the lectures I heard that we should not chant louder. We have to chant ourselves. That becomes japa. Otherwise, it becomes kirtan. So what should be the approach, Maharaj? What should I do? Should I chant louder or just muted and chanting?
When you're on a Zoom call, you have to be respectful of others. Tomorrow in the temple room, you have to be respectful of others. So loud enough so that you can hear yourself, but not loud enough so you're going to disturb the people next to you. Now, here's two stories, Prabhupada stories, about how loud should you chant. Giriraj Maharaj was known and still does, as far as I know. He chants kind of, with enthusiasm, a little loud. So this is now at the Boston Temple where I joined. And people were complaining, you chant too loud, in the temple room. So he wrote to Prabhupada about chanting loud and chanting fast. And Prabhupada said, good, because by chanting loudly, it'll help to capture the mind. And chanting swiftly is good, because it would help to capture the mind, but not so swiftly you cannot hear every syllable. Prabhupada. Here's another. Melbourne, every morning Prabhupada liked to go to the botanical garden. And when he would walk in morning walks, he would sometimes stop and speak. And there was an Australian devotee was sharing that there was one Mataji that chanted very loudly, so loudly that everyone couldn't hear what Prabhupada was saying when he stopped. He kept chanting. And he was thinking, this isn't good. It's not being, she shouldn't, at least when Prabhupada is speaking, she shouldn't chant so loudly. His mind was complaining about the volume. And as that thought was arising, Prabhupada said, this Mataji, she chants very nicely. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
In the circumstance, you want to be thoughtful about others. Here's a hand in the back. Put your hand up again, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have two separate questions. So I'll go with the first one. You mentioned that we have to chant from the heart and we have to move from head to heart. And I understand from the class that we have to pray to Krishna and we have to surrender to the holy name to make it chant from the heart. Do you have any other, or do you want to elaborate on that, Maharaj?
I thought I did pretty good job. But
I'm sorry, Maharaj.
you want to hear
I'm
more.
Stupid, so.
So to elaborate, it's not that you switch your intelligence to the off position and you just become a heart-guided person. Not that. The intelligence then becomes a servant of the heart. Dadami buddhi yogam tam nidamam upiyanti te. Krishna gives intelligence. Tesham satata yuktanam vajatam priti purvakam. So intelligence is still there. Can you fix the ring back? Whoever's our operations person, it's got a ring back. Intelligence is still there, but it's operating directed by the heart. The heart meaning Krishna should be pleased. That's Anushilanam. Krishna should be pleased. And that's our nature. It's not artificial. It's not Prabhupada's words, it's not a superimposition upon the mind. It's the nature of the soul. So when we get to that who we really are position, the head is there and it's in alignment with the heart. And the heart is directed towards who we really are, pleasing Krishna, acting in our relationship as servant of Krishna. Dasya Bhuta Harer Eva. That's who we are. That's the heart. The heart can mean the soul, but it can mean, the seat of consciousness. There are real who we are. That's the heart. The soul is in the physical heart, radiating consciousness of who we really are, or covered and colored and infected. So intelligence is used to guide, following and being driven by that one thing. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, second.
My second question, You beautifully answered Hrishta's question about being peaceful and maintaining that peace. The examples you gave were two of them. Both of them are in the negative side of it. Like they're not positive environment. Let's say both the airplane situations where you were calm and that was appreciated, and that's good that that was appreciated. But what happens if there was an excitement or happiness situation? Do we still maintain that calmness, or do we? Because let's say in my office, if there is any goal successfully completed, I keep calm, and I look like a different person there. Everyone is excited, and everyone is like clapping and showing their excitement, but I look like a different person there. I don't show that excitement. Is it considered to be like I feel myself out of place at that point?
Actually,
of time?
what?
I feel myself out of place.
You feel out of place.
Yeah, when everyone is showing their excitement, I'm not in that. I'm not participating in that happiness or excitement. So what should we? Is it a good thing or bad thing or?
It depends. Depends on you, depends on the circumstance, depends on the group. It's good if people understand you're being yourself, you're who you are, and being cold is not who you are. Being indifferent to the good and the bad and the good fortune, ill fortune, and you're indifferent, you're neutral. They're different. There's something else about you that's different than, this, because you go for that one, you're going to go for the other one. It's just part of the material world of duality. When it's not going well, then what do they do? They fault find the other guy and criticize and backbite, and they do that business along with the celebrating thing. That's not you. So if you can think, you access your heart and convey your joy in your relationship with Krishna in a way that's not like you're a weirdo or you're a fanatic or something, but if you can convey that verbally or however coming from you, it works. And you're consistent like that. You're Krishna's devotee, that you see things in relation to Krishna. If you can think of a way to express, feel, and then express your appreciation for Krishna's kindness. And you can figure out a way that matches your nature and them. And you're different, and it's quite okay. You're a good guy. You're being yourself. We respect. So some people don't respect. They want you to conform. You don't have to conform. Be yourself. And you're Krishna's kindness. And however you want to say that and express it and feel it. A real happiness, however you want to say it, a real happiness is not this. A real happiness is a real success, however you want to say it. You're different. You're who you are. So don't feel stifled or something. Let the joy of bhakti life come out in terms of bhakti life. And at different times, creatively inspired, you'll express in a different way. Prabhupada was really good at that. He wasn't a cookie cutter answer for things. Very spontaneous. So aspire for that, not just, be choked and stifled. Be warm and devotional. Right next to you, there's somebody got their hand.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Dhanavad Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very wonderful class, Maharaj. So
Slowly and clearly.
yes. This is okay.
You're okay. You're doing good. I'm strained to hear words. So if you speak slowly and clearly, be kind to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maharaj, I have three questions. So first of all, we generally from beginning of chanting, we do the Hare Krishna, Guru Vandana, after that Panchatattva mantra, after that doing the chanting.
I didn't catch it because you spoke too fast. Speak slowly and clearly. Be kind to me.
Okay.
You don't have to stand up, just slowly and clearly.
Yes. So generally we are chanting every day, and before chanting we do the Panchatattva mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sridhara, and other Guru mantra.
Okay.
And after that we should chant these things. We should pray to the Lord. This after you are instructing here, my dear Krishna. Should I do that, or before chanting we do that?
Whatever works for you. There's no rule.
Okay. So that is one question. Another question is that I asked also this question to our senior devotee. I got some answer from you. I need some more clarification about that.
You need some what?
More clarification. Clarification.
Scientific? Clarity?
Clarification, clarity or clarification.
Clarity is what you're asking for?
Yes. Yeah, so that is question of pure chanting and offenseless chanting. What is the difference between the pure
What's the difference between pure and offenseless?
offenseless chanting?
Offensive or offenseless?
Offenseless.
Okay, what's the difference between offenseless and pure chanting? That's your
Yeah,
question?
Yes.
Not much difference at all. We discussed this yesterday. There are different ways of looking at and describing the same thing. And this is like, so offenseless, you can say is a method. It's an adjective describing a state of free from offense. And one who is free from offense, who is going down that offenseless chanting path, that's pure chanting. Just different ways of describing the same thing. How's that?
Yes, and that means pure chanting and offenseless chanting is coming from the heart, right? Is it correct?
That's another way of saying the same thing. It's a different emphasis. It's saying the same thing.
Okay. And third question is that, Maharaj, sometimes we are chanting, whether we are chanting from the heart or from whether we are chanting from the brain.
Okay, you got to slow
don't
down, slow down. Say it again, slow down.
Yes. So, Maharaj, sometimes we don't realize because
Sometimes we do what?
sometimes we are not in that consciousness.
Sometimes we're not in that consciousness. Yes.
In that consciousness, that we can not able to distinguish that whether we are chanting from the brain or from the heart. How can you distinguish that?
This is an analytical question. And it's my question to you is, if you got an answer, is it this or that? How's that going to help you with your chanting? It's an analytical question. How is it going to help you with your chanting? You can say it's not from the heart. So then leave it up to you which one it is.
Okay. So main question is that whatever the stage we should chant, and slowly it becomes from the heart, right? Is it correct?
I've chosen this topic, chanting from the heart, because it's a topic that devotees hear and then ask, what does that mean? So I'm not intending to say there's only one thing and you just do that one thing and it's a silver bullet and everything is accomplished. It's a perspective on chanting with devotion to Krishna, with the intention of pleasing Krishna.
Yes.
Now, one way, there's different ways. One way to look at Effective chanting is for Krishna because it's our life. It's a relationship with Krishna. Now you can take other ways of looking at the same thing and call it offenseless chanting, call it pure chanting, give it other names and other perspectives on the same thing. Where, the object, prayerful chanting, where aligned chanting, there's different ways of looking at the same thing. So I wish to respond to your question by saying, this is a perspective, and it doesn't like everything has to fit into that box or that perspective. No. I'm encouraging through this presentation to assist our chanters tomorrow in the 64 round day to align yourself to that purpose or principle, because it's effective. When that purpose or principle is acting, everything else is there. And if you feel you find yourself distracted or the mechanical or whatever, move to that position. Strive to move to that position. That's my purpose. And don't overanalyze, then you'll miss the point.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
In the back, Amritananda.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisance, all praise to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Bhakti is defined as continuous service or emotions
Yes.
to Krishna. Now, our experience, Maharaj, is that emotion is something we feel, and when you feel it strongly enough, it manifests as service. And that service is something, the object of a love, for example.
Yes.
I feel love. So service is that medium through which the beloved can experience what we are feeling.
Yes.
So over here, it says service or emotion. And I'm thinking service and emotion is closely connected, because in absence of service, what good is emotion?
To make this definition, first of all, I didn't make the definition, but to make that such a distinction, one can look at it this way, or one can look at it that way. Because what's service without emotion? What's emotion without service is your point. So one can look at it this way, one can look at it that way. They amount to the same thing, so why have two options? Depends on how you look at it. They do amount to the same thing. When there is proper alignment with pleasing Krishna, the emotions flow in that direction, the activities flow following that emotion. Does that help? Yes? Yeah, he may have something more to say.
Yes, Maharaj, because there was this poet, Milton, who went blind, and then he wrote, he was very devout.
He was
and
where?
He wrote that they also serve who stand and wait, because being blind, he couldn't do much service. So but in his thinking, he was always thinking of
Yeah.
serving his Lord.
Thakur.
So I think your point, I can relate to that. But if we have the ability to serve, then it's not just having the thoughts we
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. Let me ask you, when you're at some stage of your life, are you thinking to live in Vrindavan?
No. And sorry.
Okay.
The
What Rupa Goswami is recommending is, if you cannot, then at least in the mind, you should have that appreciation and hanker for remembering the associates of Krishna in Vrindavan.
Yes,
So
yes. Maharaj, our dear devotee, Govardhan Bhakta Prabhu, actually, my answer no is once he shared that, and of course, we also know it is, Vrindavan is also a state of mind, consciousness,
yeah,
where all the time you're engaged in service, and of course, the
but it's
physical
also a place.
the
It's
physical
also
place,
a dham.
dham.
The dham can be in your heart, and the dham has its place, you can say physically or spiritually, it's
Correct.
manifest by
Correct.
Krishna's Sarup Shakti.
Correct. So Prabhuji mentioned that, we have our wonderful deities here.
Yeah.
And just here we have Mayapur, we have Vrindavan, and we have Jagannath Puri in just one place. So with that consciousness that when we come over here, that the dham, all three dhams are here.
So I gave this example, asked you this question in response to your statement. Supposing someone doesn't have physical capacity to see, are they prohibited or restricted from service because their senses in a certain department at least don't work? So they can think of, and it's the same. It's a transcendental reality. So back to the initial question, if there's an emotion, will there not be service? And if there's service, how can there be service without the corresponding emotion? And then it's not service. So it's just an alignment question. So then I asked the question I asked. If you have the capacity, and if you have a means for yourself personally, that you look at what Bhakti Tirtha Swami did. I mean, he could have, whatever, he could have went to Vrindavan, to the hospice, and left his body in Vrindavan, and he left his body in Girinagri, and he had a samadhi placed in Girinagri. I mean, he had a purpose behind that also. It's consciousness. And that's sacred. Krishna consciousness is sacred. It's not easily achieved. But one wants to nourish that Krishna consciousness. So back to the statement of what the heart of bhakti is. It's the service or the emotion directed towards Krishna, pleasing Krishna. So yours is a fine, Bhakti Tirtha Swami's is a fine, and someone who goes to Vrindavan to be mindful of Krishna in that circumstance, that's fantastic. Our acharyas recommend it. If not physically, then within. That's the emotion. And then that comes the service. Okay, I think I'm going to end because of time. 9th. What? Online? One question. Okay. It's 9:25. One question.
This is from Amara Mataji. The very first question is, in the mood to pray to Krishna, she's going through the misery and also how to please Krishna at the same time, facing duplicity. How to address that?
Do you understand the question? I don't.
While going through misery,
Don't just read it. Tell me what the question is.
question is, there's a duplicity arising while chanting to please Krishna, or going through misery, she says. I don't know what misery, but
Do you understand the question? I don't.
yeah, even I didn't get it. But the second one is clear, Maharaj. The second question she has, it is how to understand the different false shelters.
How to understand
False shelters.
false shelter, something that's impermanent. Everything comes from Krishna. Everything is in relation to Krishna. But things that are impermanent, they're false shelters. Deriving happiness by contact with the impermanent. Ah, happiness. That's a false shelter. That's not a real shelter. It's not real happiness. Okay,
Thank you, Maharaj.
you have something?
I think I understood Amara Mataji's question.
The first question, you want
Yeah.
to rework it? Your mom
So-
does too. Go
Um,
ahead. Say it slowly.
Amara Mataji was asking, when we want to serve Krishna.
When you
and-
want to please Krishna,
Yes, and in the process, we sometimes experience misery,
we sometimes feel misery.
right? So how do we understand that that is pleasing Krishna?
Well, it depends on what your misery is. If your misery is because, your kids talk back to you and you're feeling miserable, then that's not Krishna's mercy. You're not seeing Krishna's mercy. Or you stub your toe or, something. There's a heat wave coming in. So like, I'm feeling miserable. Anyway, if seeing Krishna's mercy is possible for someone who sees Krishna as their shelter. And then whatever Krishna does, it's to assist us in feeling our connection with him. And the not finding happiness in the temporary. I mean, did you send out that little recording of Srila Prabhupada speaking about Narada and Krishna and the Pandavas? Did you forward that to others? Okay, he'll do it now, and then you can listen to that. Amara, you can listen to that and you'll get the answer. Okay. It's time to end. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. We'll have a 1 hour, 30 minutes of break for the breakfast prasadam. So the next session will start at 11 o'clock from His Grace Madhupati Prabhu. So see you at 11. And we have 3 continuous sessions. Please do try to attend them and also encourage other devotees. Hare Krishna. 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, right? Schedule says.